you probably had somebody really good on your team and they walked because they got ignored. They didn't feel appreciated and all those things. And I think that's a big key to leadership is appreciate them, touching base with everybody. How's it going? What's going on at the house? Everything okay? How's pay going? I've even mentioned that to my employees. How's pay going? You feel fair?
Don't wait around for the up bus. Get in the driver's seat and take control of your operations. Are you ready to increase profitability, have better processes, and get proactive with your operations? Welcome to the Up Bus Podcast. Here's your hosts, Jasen Harris and Jasen Rice.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jasen Harris here with Jasen Rice. That's right, two Jasons, two just more of the fun, double the fun. That's what it is. You know what it reminds me of? I know I'm supposed to be doing the intro right now, but I'm totally getting off track. Do you remember those old double gum commercials? It was like double the fun. I don't know why.
Double mint or something like that. Yeah.
Double mint, right?
Yeah. And they had twins in the commercials. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking that might be our intro theme for like this podcast. We just play, double the fun. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's double mint bubblegum. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to come jam with us. We have an amazing topic on the Up Bus podcast today. We get to talk about anything and everything we want to talk about when it comes to effective management. And I'm excited for this topic. I just got off of doing about a week worth of kind of in-dealership visits. So I am like chocked full to the brim of all kinds of things I need to say when it comes to no, look, all joking aside, I saw some really great operations, and then I saw some that didn't effectively make me cringe. But there are some great operators out there, and there's always room for opportunity. Guys, the Up Bus is all about being proactive and not being reactive, and that is what we're going to talk about today. Jasen, how's your week been, man?
It's actually been really good. We're getting a lot of dealers reaching out, at least the proactive ones, trying to get ahead of what this market shift's doing. So,
yeah, there's a lot of things changing right now. So it's but you know what though, this is the time, and I think leading all the way up to NADA, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I'm actually excited for this upcoming NADA because I think we're going to see those proactive dealers, that cream really kind of rise to the top, and we're going to start seeing it at the conferences. It's going to start showing at the conferences, people with intent, people with drive, right? Anyways, so if you have intent, you have drive, and you want to be proactive, this is the podcast for you. So our first topic of today is how to develop strong management for your dealership. The key word here, I think, is develop. I think too often we think there's a management store like an Office Max that we can go and just kind of like, maybe there's a vending machine. Carvana made one. Maybe we can make a vending machine for management. No, I'm just kidding. But I would love to get your thoughts, Jasen, and I'll intervene because I got some in here, man. I've been waiting for this topic all day today. Your thoughts on how we develop stronger management at a dealership?
Well, I mean, my initial instinct is, lead by example, right? So, when you go in or when there's customers out there, go get off your butt and go meet and greet the customers, or, make sure that, here's the thing. A lot of times when managers go into TO, when it's kind of too late, it's when the customer's ready to leave versus taking a proactive approach and doing it, during the meet and greet, or during while we go get the keys and pull the car up, or during the appraisal process. So, getting ahead of, the deals and the customers and their mindsets and letting them know that, you're there to help them instead of just trying to sell them something and beat them up on their trade value and things like that. I think if you get proactive, obviously, again, going back to the Up Bus, instead of just sitting back and waiting to go into a TO to try to save a deal that's already lost, is to just kind of lead by example and get out there in the first place.
Look, proactive is definitely going to be a key to getting out there and making those changes. When I think of kind of development, I actually, my head originally went to like almost all the way down to the point of the interview. And a lot of times we interview people, we interview them for a position, and we don't necessarily talk about what they ultimately want to do or what direction they want to go in. So, for me, I think of like development should almost be mapped out at the point of the interview. If they're coming on as a salesperson or hell, even if they're coming on as a lot attendant, but they have a dream and a vision that they would like to be a manager someday. You see this in other verticals. I don't see it enough in automotive, where we're actually taking the time to map out what does it take to actually become a manager versus just, I hate to say it. And I was actually at a couple dealerships just recently that, the key to being a manager was outlasting all the other salespeople on the floor.
Yeah. Being loyal, right?
Right, was being loyal. But like, what would you say, if you were to put it from more kind of like a stage kind of a thing, is what do you think are some of the key stages or maybe even training or classes? That's another thing. I'm surprised that that's not true. There are some great dealerships that do consistently train and develop, but management just doesn't happen overnight. It's something you got to grow into. And I'd love to get, kind of your thoughts on that.
Well, I think too is given the opportunity to the people on your staff. It just seems like, I left the dealership in 2005, and then I was in V Auto till 13. So I was on the vendor and the quote unquote dark side. And what's funny is I end up going back to the same dealer group that I left. And at that point in time, they're actually listening to me. I was 3 or 4 years in the inventory management with V Auto and training, and they actually invited me to their GM meeting that they had at their dealer group. And then they even invited me to the GM retreat at their, another year. And what's funny was that here I was working for this dealership for this dealer group all together, maybe 5 years. I was their internet director for all their stores. At no point in time did I get invited to the GM meetings and everything else, even though I was touching every one of those stores. And all my ideas that I had back then, no one wanted to listen to me, so I end up, going, all right, well then part ways. But it was funny when I was on the other side, then they listened to me. It's like, gosh, man, if this was what was happening when I was there, I probably would have stuck around, like showed me some value. So I think it's real important to, not just broom or brush off, some ideas and some insights and things that other employees trying to do, being proactive and trying to be ahead of the game and saying, hey, this is where we think we should go. And you broom them off. I think that's, to the point where, I guess to be explicit, I was sitting there trying to find a way to do a centralized BDC, spend a little bit of money. We had a building that was empty because the Ford store built a brand new facility, didn't tear down the other one. There's already office equipment in that old building, plus some at the other stores. I'm like, I could put a whole team together with very minimal expense between desk and computers and chairs. We got a lot of that already within the group. Let's put it in this building and let's centralize. We ain't got the money for that. And then at the same time, months later, they buy a big old $200,000, Class A RV wrapped about, their soccer club that they sponsor, and I'm like, okay. So my point is like, regardless of that, it's, there's probably people on your team members as a leader, as a manager that you should build up. You should take some of their ideas, maybe run with them and let them. That encourages them. Again, that helps them not leave. Like you said, the managers end up getting promoted, the ones that survived everybody else. Well, why'd those people leave? You probably had somebody really good on your team and they walked because they got ignored. They didn't feel appreciated and all those things. And I think that's a big key to leadership is appreciate them, touching base with everybody. How's it going? What's going on at the house? Everything okay? How's pay going? I've even mentioned that to my employees. How's pay going? You feel fair? Just stuff like that, because I'd rather them tell me and be honest or hurt my feelings than them just leaving and because they didn't want to hurt my feelings, and got a better offer somebody else.
That's investing, right? Like, I think anybody out there watching, listening right now, and if here's the stress test. So I'm going to stress test if you guys are actually developing out your staff. All right, development requires an investment in time and money. If you can look on your calendar and see that you have invested time, meaning scheduled time to develop your team, into the managers that you want them to be. And are you invested in, if you can look at your P&L and show me the line item where you are investing it, then I would say you're effectively developing. But to your point, and you said it, Jason, look, if you're not taking the time to, meet with the team, work with them, get to know them, understand their why, how are you going to help develop them out? And if you're not going to spend the time to invest monetarily into those efforts. Like, I don't know about you, man, but I remember like when I first started, early 2000s, late 90s, it was very, very common that a good chunk of, let's call it like physical square footage inside of a dealership was allocated to a training room. And I don't know what happened over the years. Now, there are some still dealerships that I think maintain that, but I'm actually seeing less and less of that.
Well, the last 3 years with COVID, of course, you didn't have to train much. Anybody could sold cars then. But also talking about investment, to me, it's coming down to confidence. Because here, I'm going to train my salespeople, right? If I either do training at that building with some, tapes or VHS tapes of but if you do some training, even bring somebody in house to train your staff, all you're really doing is trying to build their confidence and overcome any objections and have confidence in their sales pitch and so forth. But as a manager, I want my sales team to have confidence in me. Now, I'm not going to go through word tracks and things to be able to have them have how they get confidence in me, because I'm desking their deal. I'm appraising their car. When I tell them, hey guys, you need to go back and tell them this because of this, this, and this, right? I need them to have confidence and trust in me that they like me. So only way that I can get my sales team to have confidence in my management role is to invest in them and spend time and understanding. And then they go, I like this guy, or, he really looks out for me, or he really respects me, and he really listens to me, or whatever. And so to me, and it has to do with life too. Growing up in middle school or high school, trying to get a girlfriend, the shy, embarrassed kid versus the confident kids are the ones that, it tends to succeed in those environments. So it's life in general, and so having your team have confidence in you as a management team is not, sales pitches and word tracks. It's
what you put into them.
Yeah. So I almost think that's more important than having a training room or an internal trainer. I'd want that first. I want to build that relationship, trust, and everything else, and then let somebody else, maybe I can do it, but as a manager, maybe I can teach them word tracks and everything else. But, I think my role for them, in my eyes, would be relationship wise.
Yes.
A trainer for the dealership would be to, word tracks and everything else, the ins and outs.
No.
It's like having a trainer at the gym doing weights, and you have a dietitian, right?
No, you're 100% right. In fact, actually, I was going to go to a similar analogy like that, right? Like, trainers train on the activities required to get the job done, right? Coaches develop people to individually be the best they can be themselves. They lift each person up individually. And to your point, right, that investment, that's time, which I understand from an operations perspective, it's probably one of the most expensive commodities we have.
Well, yeah, think about it. I mean, going to the gym takes time and effort and energy, which no one wants to do, but you need to, right? Getting a dietitian, everybody's got to eat. That doesn't take time. I'm going to eat lunch one way or the other. Might as well eat it right, though, right? So, but I'd rather eat the right things than the bad things. So same thing, word tracks and saying the right thing versus the wrong thing. To me, you need to have. You can get somebody that's good at both, but not great at neither, right? So I need somebody that's great at personal management and relationships as a leader of my team, and then I need somebody that's just good at the the ins and outs and the small things, teaching them those kind of things. Again, you can do both, maybe, but I'd rather have somebody great at both.
100%. One of the things I noticed too, as I've been doing my dealer visits recently, is there's definitely a difference between, let's call them the management teams. I would call them maybe levels, right? I mean, look, Jason, both of us are kind of we embrace the theology of people, process, and technology. Like, it's just like it all comes down to kind of those three things, right? And the one thing that I kind of found super inconsistent when a lot of these dealer visits is management's approach to process. I hate to say it, all right, but well over 70% of the people I sat down with, all right, I'll tell you where the process existed. It existed right up here in their head, not on a piece of paper, and I got thinking about that, man. I just like, man, what a lost opportunity there, because we're not documenting processes. But then I was like, okay, well, all right, so let's say I'm going to document my process. I'm going to be a better manager. but what processes, where do I start? And that's my question to you. Given, all of the challenges and ups and downs that we're dealing with right now currently in the environment, the automotive environment, what would be, let's go 3. What are your top 3 processes that should be documented at a dealership right now? Let's do that.
Well, if we're not talking about managing people and we're just talking about managing a store, we did a dealer workshop, and I focused it this way: was these 3 areas. Matter of fact, there's 3 areas. One was inventory. Let's get our inventory right. A lot of people run into advertising and things like that, and to your point, internet follow-up processes and stuff. But if I advertise bad cars, it doesn't work. If I advertise great cars and get leads that no one's following up with, it doesn't work. So I want to get the inventory right first. Let's do that, because then if my inventory is right, I'm going to drive traffic, right? And traffic solves all problems. So now that I have traffic, then establish your internet processes with follow-up management. Once that's tight and you're doing it that effectively, then you go to marketing. And so, but again, a lot of times we chase that new shiny tool that, hey, let's do Facebook marketing. Let's do, chat GPT for this, or let's do this and that. And it's just like, hold on a second. You don't even have your inventory right. And even if you did, you got leads in here you haven't followed up for 20 days. So why are you even trying to worry about marketing and getting more leads when so I would focus on inventory first. Once you're getting leads, making sure they're followed up with. Once that's tight, then you start feeding the beast and advertising and pushing more and more at it. I guess those are the 3 things. If you're talking about just managing a store, that's where I would go.
No, look, I'm with you. I would 100%. Number 1's inventory. If I was to maybe add to what you stated, I'd probably slip 1 right in between inventory and marketing, and I would say communication. Right. That's the one thing that was actually really cool about COVID and everything that happened. Right. As an industry, we literally had to step up our game when it came to communication. It forced us to communicate the way the customer wanted to communicate. Did they want to communicate via text message?
Well, it wasn't the way they wanted. It was about the only way we could. We couldn't. Hey, when can you be here?
We didn't have an option. There was no option.
Have an option. Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best thing for us, because then it's not about us and it has to be about the customer, right? So it's like, yes, you're so right. When it comes to inventory, do we have the right cars? Do we even have the right mix of those right cars? Do we understand what what our identity behind, the inventory that we're choosing is? And are we making data-driven decisions around what inventory? And then, like I said, the only thing I'd add is just right in there is, what is that communication strategy? Are we, do we have a proverbial bat phone to the dealership?
I guess the other one, from forward to back, from the day you start managing inventory, would be branding. And that's where I think confusion is also. People don't understand the difference between branding and marketing, right? When I'm talking marketing, I'm saying, getting cars out there in front of people. But branding to me is, from day one, let's start doing videos. Let's start doing testimonials. Let's start, doing our Google, business page and making awareness of what we do in the community. That could be day one also. And that would be the 4th layer, but that one's going across every part. When I'm emailing, communicating with customers, I'm branding also. When I'm marketing, I'm branding also. But I think that also starts at the very beginning, which is, market. Sometimes it's marketing dollars and things like that too.
Well, but you know what though? Too often we get into a marketing strategy, we never defined our brand in the first place. And I don't know. I know we're finding a rabbit hole, but I like these rabbit holes. So let's go down this rabbit hole of brand, right? Now, because this was a topic that came up in some of the meetings that I had recently, was, what is your brand? I will tell you, I got some pretty standard questions. I got replies. Some were pleasantly surprised, and then some I got some standard ones, right? Most of them was, we've been in the community for 26 years. We're family owned, and I'm like, that's not your brand. That's just that's your about us story, right? Like, Jason, why do you connect to a brand? Like, there are certain brands that you connect to, maybe shoe brands or certain vehicles, or what's a brand you follow right now, and why did you connect to it?
I don't know. I guess.
You're going to
Well, I
say
mean, a couple of them, like off the top of my head, Garmin, one, two, First Form, which is a supplement company. I could think that I do, subscription stuff through them. I did Whoop for a while. I appreciated that. And it was a mixture of the well, here another thing, and this is weird, but it's sports, like Sporting KC. We've got season tickets. I'm thinking about going on Sunday where they got an open event for season tickets with Meet the Players, and you just become part of that environment, right? Which is pretty cool because there's universal people there, right, with the same likes and so forth. So you just start. So and what the other thing is sometimes that brand recognition doesn't happen to acquisition. And so what I mean by that is we just bought a pontoon or tri-tune, right? And it's a Sullivan. So next thing you know, I'm in Sullivan's Facebook group. I'm in Sullivan's, I'm sitting there following that brand and I'm like, because I own it, right? So, people do that. They go buy an RV and whatever brand that RV is, they follow that, that group and that tribe. And so it's not so much.
But that's why we connect to brands. So I find there's two reasons. It either represents us or as we stand now. So therefore, like, hey, I own this one. I want to make that a part of my brand as well. And then the second one, it represents something that we do want to be a part of, but maybe we're not quite yet, or we'll never be able to. So for example, like the professional sports teams, right? Like, I want to be associated. I'm never going to be out there playing with the players.
You got the jersey, don't you?
But I got the jersey, right?
So it's in your car.
Yeah. So like, it's my way of being able to kind of be a part of them, but I'm not really out there playing the game. But I find for dealerships, if you guys are sitting there kind of questioning, kind of like, what is my brand? The brand is not necessarily what you do, but how you do it. And
so it's kind of a combination of mission statements, what's your mission statement, and then turn that into your brand.
100%. In fact, that's actually, Jason, that was a perfect segue into our third topic today, because we're talking about management versus leadership and, tips and tricks for fostering employee engagement and growth. And I will tell you this, less than the fingers on one hand, is the amount of dealerships I've met that have, a documented, it's well understood mission and vision. And a lot of people talk about this thing called culture, and they want their employees to engage and they want their employees to grow, but without a mission. I mean, I don't know, like, to me, I set up missions all the time. You should see when I take my 3 kids to the grocery stores, like, it's straight up. I got a vision in my head how it's going to happen. It's going to totally not going to happen that way. I got a mission that we're going to go in under the radar. There's 3 things we're going to get, and then we're going to get the hell out, and it never works. But at least I try. Now, what's your thoughts on how dealerships should be creating mission and vision statements?
Well, a couple good examples. Liza at CMA, you got Patrick Abad at Beaver Toyota, Cummings, they do a great job if dealers want to do some research. But I think they're simple. My action plans you can do today. One, I don't know about you, but probably I at least put it at 60%, could be as high as 80% of the dealership's website staff page has very little of data or none on their actual staff. I mean, because here's the thing: I get somebody with a demo request, I'll go to their website, go to the staff page, see, okay, is this a manager, a used car manager, GM? Who is this? Yep. Nothing. I go to their Facebook page. I can try to look them up on Facebook. I pull them up, or I get a Facebook. They want to connect, and I go there, and they have no employment information. I don't know. Are you in a dealership? Do I see you? I mean, so I think staff page is real important. And what we do here, at Laptop, I try to mimic what I preach. I have a staff page. I have a bio on everybody. Yes. The majority of them will have videos of their background and where they came from, what they like about their job. And because here's the thing, I've heard the couple of excuses. One, we got a lot of turnover, so blah. 2, I'm afraid of my master technician, the dealer down the street's going to steal them. Okay, well, the fact that you're not investing in them and promoting them on your website probably sets the stage, for them not to want to be there. If you're investing, you're promoting, and you're proud of your team, and then the second thing is, as a leader or manager, again, lead by example. Go out there and start doing videos and showing them, because then it gives the salespeople more confidence to get in front of a phone and say, "Dude, it's not that hard. Watch, and hey, come here, join us with this, and come check out this car," and do that as a dealer and introduce. Alex Flores does a great job with that with his dealerships.
Great.
So, but that becomes an example to, again, allow your team, one, if you do photos and bios on everybody, that shows them that you care about them and you're wanting to promote them. If you're doing videos, that encourages them and shows them it's not that hard. Those are easy, quick things that it does engagement, right?
Yes.
I can go up to Tommy and say, "Come on, Tommy, it's not that hard. Here, watch. Grab a phone. Here, come here. And we're going to go live, all right? Come here, Tommy. Look, hey, I want everybody to meet Tommy. He's shy, but he's a great salesman, da, 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 da." And then, "Hey, what's your hobby, Tommy?" "Well, I love doing this." "Hey, anybody out there love camping? You come into the dealership, you ask for Tommy because he's going to know it." Do that stuff with your team, because that, to me, goes back to the beginning. You got to invest, and then they're going to have confidence and trust in you. So when you're doing desk in a deal and you're trying to get them to hold on a trade, or you're trying to close a deal on a customer and a $2,500 more payment, even though you're all dried out and you can't adjust anymore, and they're either walking or they're not, they got confidence in you. Versus if they think they don't like you or don't trust you, and they do have closing skills, they're going to manipulate you and the deals and work the desk harder than the customer.
Well, see, that's
right?
the difference between management and leadership, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'll be the first one to admit, I've worked my fair share of managers over the years. Okay. Like I've worked my fair share of them, right? I knew which manager I should take which deal to. And I knew that, but what you're talking about here is really good. That's a difference between that leadership, right? The leader's the one that's going to grab, Jimmy by the arm and say, "Come on, man, let's do this together." Right. And I think we need to have a balance of both management and leadership, at a dealership, but there is a difference. Can managers, help support the employee engagement and growth? Yes, but it's from a supportive perspective, where that leadership, to your point, they need to lead that. And first was it leadership 101? You're leading by example, but it's through it how we create that space for leadership inside of our dealership. Because I find too often we have a lot of managers running around managing stuff, managing people, managing those processes. But is there a clearly defined leader that is making sure that the growth factor is always kind of there?
Yeah. Well, it's got to go two ways also. We're beating up on the managers, and they could try as much as they want. But I think the employees, as a salesperson, if you're figuring out how to get to that management role, you should show respect. You should look out for the backs of that manager. You should listen and try to do what they're doing. As long as the manager's treating you with respect and everything else. One example that I did, I was bad in some areas. I got cocky in some areas, obviously, but there was other areas. Like I remember a particular scenario where I had a manager. I was an internet guy, and had appraisal. GSM at the time was desking a deal, and hey, come with me. Let's go appraise this car. We go out there. He test drives it. He comes back in. He looks around the car previously and drove it. And then we're walking inside, and I turned to him. I said, "Hey," I said, "Do you see that hail?" He goes, "There's hail?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes back and he looks at it, and he's like, I'd like, "Look," and he's like, "Oh my God, yeah." And from there on, he had some. To the point where at one point in time he came up to me and he said, "I appreciate what you did," because that could cost me the deal. That would have made my deal a lot easier, right? He probably would have praised it $2,000 more, but because of the hail, I got hit, and it made the deal tougher. But I was honest with him. I didn't let him slip through that cracks, and that built the trust with him, right? To trust me, because I respected him, and I didn't want us as a team, I wasn't just looking out for my pocket, right? I was looking out for the dealership. So it does go both ways.
And I love that story, but I think the thing is that you were in a place where A, you were confident, and B, you felt safe enough to be able to say what you needed to say.
Yeah.
So like when we're talking about like fostering employee engagement and growth, are we creating an environment, are our managers creating an environment that it is safe to, maybe push back or ask for extra things? I mean, I find too often, I'll go in to talk to, I actually was, again, I'm using some generalizations here. So guys, please don't take this as generalization. There's some great operators out there. But I did one dealership. I was in just a Subaru dealership just recently. I watched a salesperson do an appraisal on a vehicle, and I saw him not drive it around the dealership. He just literally just filled out whatever and did that. And I said, real quick, I'm curious, like, why don't you do that? Because that's because only the used car manager could do that. I can only just fill out the information. I said, well, why didn't you go ask him? Because I don't know, man. He's in a meeting right now, and I don't want to bug him. I don't want to bug him. So there was this element of fear, because there wasn't a safe place for. I know. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think, from a leadership perspective, guys, we have to ensure that we're creating a safe place that we can actually, have growing opportunities like that in our dealership.
Yeah. But again, if I didn't like or trust that manager, I would have just let him. Screw it. It's his problem. He bid it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You would have just let it go, right? Just let him eat the $2,000, whatever.
Yeah. And so, it's a balancing act. It has to come from both ways. Somebody keeps pouring into you and trying to help you out, and you just keep pushing back. But again, I knew my limitations. When I was doing internet and customers back then, we're talking, like you said, early 2000s. One of the things I would say to customers, because they always ask what their trade's worth, and my role on that on the phone was, have you looked at Kelley Blue Book? They say, yeah. I'm like, if you're comfortable with those figures, we shouldn't have a problem earning your business. Never said I give it to them. Comfort could be $1,000 here and $1,000 there, right?
Sure, of course.
So got them in the door. But I knew what that car was worth. If let's say if it was worth $12,000, and I even knew maybe even wholesale was around $12,000, I would work the desk, because I knew whatever number, when I go up to desk the deal, they're going to say, well, what's the number customer wants? Well, if I said 12, they're going to hit me at 11, always, every time. And the car was worth 12. So then I'd go up there and say, oh, they want 13. So guess what they hit me at? 12.
There's the process.
Right. So I made but again, I knew they weren't burying themselves in the car. I knew what it was worth. Customer knew what it was worth. I know wholesale's that way. So, I mean, there was that cat and mouse game that you did to try to make deals. But again, there's also those times that I said, no, this is right. This thing's got hail. I'm not going to risk my deal because of it. Customer knows it has hail. They didn't mention it, but they know they have it. So, I mean, there is, but I just, again, nowadays it's a little bit different. A lot of dealerships are one price appraisal. We're worth a few $100, not a few grand. Customers are more educated now than back then, and vice versa. So,
but it's still working, because I think one price even increases the requirement for trust across the board even more so now, right? Because you don't have these gate tolls to go through.
Well, the problem is when I did the work the desk, said they wanted 13 when they really wanted 12, because I know they'd hit me at $1,000 behind. It was a manager I didn't trust, because they would always tell me, the internet department, all you guys do is give away shit. And I knew they come in with the deal, they're going to try to steal the trade from me because it's an invoice deal or whatever. And I knew different. I took a stack of 100 of my sales sheets and averaged out my front end gross, which was like $1,240 or something. And I went to the manager and said, what is your front end gross? Oh, $1,250. Well, mine's $1,240. So, okay, shut up. So I'd get mad, and that's where I would do those things, but I didn't have that trust. Right. And so the other manager, I trusted him, the GSM, I trusted him. He wasn't at the desk that often. And that's where I, said, hey, hold on, this got hail. Right. So there's a balancing act there that you got to make sure you're not,
well, there's a balancing act, but there's also a way to do it, because this goes full circle to what we started off with this podcast was, you invest into the development of these people, the trust and confidence factor goes through the roof. All right. They got your back, you got their back. Like, you just need to have, like, if you're going to foster employee engagement and growth, all right, then you need to invest in your people. And if the first step is just time, like you said at the very beginning, right? This all comes down to it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that one manager you had that, that you watched out for and you trusted probably invested some time with you, even if it wasn't something as simple as just having a coffee with you.
And it wasn't so much trust as much we just characteristic, like, we got along a lot, we give each other shit. It was fun. But I knew my role. He was GSM and I was the internet guy. Right. So I knew that role, but at that time it was the used car manager that would always complain about the grosses that we have on used cars. Well, guess what? When I get a lead on a used car, 9 times out of 10, it's on an aged car you're blowing out and you're losing 500. So I'm going to get the lead and I'll get to go sell the car. And all you get to do is go get all the cars you sell, you lose money on. I'm like, well, we cut. And then in the meantime, when I do have another deal, he's trying to steal my trade because, he felt that. It's like, gosh, but that goes back to your communication part. Yes. And understanding. It's like, hey guys, if that used car manager came to me and said, hey guys, I'm sorry, you're going to get a bunch of deals probably on these 20 cars because I'm just blew them out. You're going to probably have a bunch of minis, but here's what I'll do for you. And I'm just looking out for you because I know you're going to probably get a ton of leads. So just be aware of that. And I'll understand, and I understand you're going to take a hit and I'll try to figure out a way out of it and make it up to you somewhere. Right. If he had a communication like that, I probably have more respect for him, but it wasn't,
Yes, no, you're 100% right. Hey guys, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time today, and man, we kind of touched a little bit of everything from development and getting to developments and investing either in your time and your money. We've covered kind of some amazing processes, getting right with your inventory, getting your communication great, making your marketing, understanding your branding. Man, we covered a bunch of stuff. And then lastly, just the tips and tricks of fostering employee engagement and growth. Again, it comes to intentionality. Again, the whole concept, the whole purpose of this podcast, guys, is for you to be proactive, not reactive. Jason, I can't tell you, I really appreciate the time today because this has been a lot of fun and just, overall, it's just unleashing the potential of a dealership. Guys, if you just take even one or possibly even two of the things that we discussed today, I think you're going to see some serious movement within your own dealership's operations.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jason, for everybody out there who's watching, make sure you follow Jasen Rice online. I'm Jason Harris, Strategy with Jason. If you like this content and you want to see more of this, go visit theupbus.com, where we'll be posting new episodes and some great tidbits and chunks. Jason, again, thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
See you later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Up Bus Podcast with your hosts, Jason Harris and Jasen Rice. To stay up to date with all our content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.